Okay, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a really special treat. We have Cody Ballard from YouTube, who's been one of my favorite Madden YouTubers since Madden 16. Please make sure to visit his channel, which is Cody Ballard, and subscribe if you haven't already. I got really lucky back in Madden 16, and I just found his channel when I was searching for how to run any type of gun offensive formation. And I saw a video that he made that was showing the gun snugs formation, which was at that time, I think, out of the Denver Broncos playbook. Anyway, I fell in love with the route concepts that he was showing, and that particular formation just felt perfect for me, so I bought his ebook. I was confused because he had talked about different playbooks, and at the time, I had never heard of team-specific playbooks before, because the last Madden I had played was back in Madden 08. So I emailed him and I asked him, I think, where I could find this particular play that he was using. And he told me that it was in the New Orleans Saints playbook, but it was under the gun tight or gun tight offset, tight end, or whatever formation. I can't really remember, but that is what led me to the Saints playbook, which is what I used all the way up until this season. He responded to me almost immediately, and he was super polite, and he just won me over. And I know he hasn't changed a bit because I still get his email list, and I sent him an email a few years ago about something or other, and he responded again like almost right away, and he was every bit as polite. So anyway, I personally believe him to be probably the best technician, certainly one of the best technicians in terms of breaking down formations and Madden concepts in general. And if you watch any of his videos, you're going to see that he knows his stuff. Super smart, super practical, and just super effective. So anyway, I want to apologize for my audio quality. I didn't realize until I listened to the audio that my microphone was giving some static, and then I noticed that it had actually collected some dust in the vents. So I really do apologize for that. But this interview isn't about me, it's about Cody, and his audio was great. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this video, and I promise you that if you subscribe to Cody, you are going to absolutely improve your Madden game. So without further ado, let's start the interview. So Cody, before we start, what sites or social media accounts do you have, and please plug them? I know my channel's small, but I really think that every person that gets to your channels will be a better Madden player for it.
My man, well, thanks for having me on. We actually just shifted. I was doing all my stuff on our Patreon page, but actually just shifted to a website called School. I just think it's a little bit more user-friendly for people. So school.com/CodyBallard is where we're going to be for both NCAA and for Madden 25. And other than that, just post 3 times a day on YouTube and just trying to help people get better as I get better is kind of the goal.
That's awesome, dude. And that's School with a K, right? SKOOOL?
Yeah, SKOOL.com, and then I'll shoot you a link if you want to drop it in the description or whatever. That'd be great.
Awesome, man. When did you start playing Madden personally?
I started playing Madden, I'm trying to think, years ago. I think the first football game I ever played, I think it was called like NFL Fever or something in like 2002 on Xbox, or I can't remember. I just remember Ricky Williams was unbelievable. I was the Dolphins. I'd use him, and the Dolphins defense with Jason Taylor and Pat Surtain and all those guys. But I started back around that time, and then just loved football. I was a big football player, and I think the first Madden I can like really remember playing was 2005. And I want to say Ray Lewis was on the cover of that, and they actually had like a create a play feature that was like the best thing ever. And I remember just spending hours just trying to create different plays or trying different stuff out. And then I probably got more serious about Madden in 2000 and I think I want to say Madden 2011 was really when I started to like kind of learn the game and really want to, try to get better type thing.
That's awesome, man. That's I remember that create a play feature, dude. You could make some crazy plays with that.
Yeah. I like one of my favorite things was like a slant. Imagine like a slant route, but there's no cut, and it's just like a diagonal line. And
right.
I'd figure out how to how to put those in like certain spots, and I thought it was brilliant. I was like showing my coach, my actual football coach, all my plays.
They used to actually have that route in the game, remember?
Yeah, I would always look for So yeah, that was kind of like the glory days.
When did you start making videos and ebooks?
So I actually started making videos in Madden 2012. My dad passed away when I was a freshman in high school, and when he passed away, my mom gave me his computer, and so I remember like it was yesterday. I'd sit in our garage, and I'd actually turned the webcam around towards the TV screen, and that's how I recorded my first videos. You can go look at them; they're terrible, but I just remember it was just, man, I just thought it was the coolest thing, just sitting there recording, talking Madden. I thought it was like no place you'd rather be. But that's kind of that, and then just tried, just from there, kind of evolved and developed and got better. But yeah, Madden, I think it was Madden 12, and I was really into posting full schemes. I think the West Coast bunch back in Madden. I can claim that I was one of the first people ever to post content on the West Coast bunch back in Madden 2012.
Dude, that's awesome, man. It's bringing back memories.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I got a big question for you. Why do you make videos?
A lot of different reasons, honestly. It's a good question. I think I just love playing Madden, and I love teaching Madden, and I love helping people get better at Madden, because I remember when I wasn't very good. And I joined a CFM, I want to say it was in Madden 2011, and I remember I just got absolutely destroyed, and I played this guy, and I can't even remember his name, but he was an older guy, and he, you could tell like he played in CFMs all the time, and he showed me these like little things, and it just got me hooked. It was like, if you know this little thing, it'll make you better. And that chase for that little edge on your opponent is that's what I fell in love with Madden, and it's really why I play as much as I do still, and I watch as much Madden as I do, and I teach as much, and that's really it. It's just this idea of like this little piece of information that if you had it, you'd be better. That little tell that you get on somebody. NFL teams they'll talk about how the best NFL players are players that are super serious about their film study, and that's kind of the angle that I feel like I think is the most the part of it that I'm most passionate about, is just helping people get better, helping, I feel like every video I make is for myself at 14,
Dude, it comes through in your videos. It really does.
Appreciate that. What about you? Why do you make videos?
Dude, kind of the same reasons. Like I love to share, I love to help. One, I feel like the best way to learn something is to teach it.
That too. That's a good point. Yep.
Yeah. And it just feels good because, even if it just, I don't know, I kind of like I always look at the world as are you a consumer or are you a producer? And do you consume more than you produce, or do you produce more than you consume? And I feel like even something small, like a small YouTube channel like mine, I feel like I'm producing, I'm doing something that helps people, and that makes me feel good, right? So I guess those are the main reasons why I do it.
Well, that's pretty cool.
You've had a lot of success posting videos, and you do have a pretty substantial following. Do you intend on continuing? Do you intend on growing?
100%. So I went through a period, actually a little stat, I was looking this up because I wanted to share this. The percentage of YouTube channels that have over 1,000 subscribers is an 8.86%. So that's kind of a crazy statistic, but once you're close, you're right at 1,000. I bet you hit 1,000 subscribers really quickly, and especially with the next Madden, because you've only really been posting Madden videos for 5 months or so,
roughly. Yeah.
And I bet you, and I've watched a lot of your videos, and I like your angle on them, but the majority of I consider myself blessed. I remember when I was starting YouTube, how I mean, it's just such a tough thing to do, and you have to do it for the right reasons. And once I got over 1,000 subscribers, I just feel like everything to me feels like a blur ever since then. I remember being so if I got to 1,000 subscribers, I made it. And now, I mean, I think I'm over 30,000 subscribers, and I started at a certain point, I started to figure out that, I kind of have this saying I say to my wife all the time: tomorrow's coming. If it's Monday, Tuesday's coming. If it's Tuesday, Wednesday's coming, or the weekend's coming. Tomorrow is already on its way. And so instead of getting, I guess, so obsessed about reaching this milestone, I've started to kind of just really enjoy the art and the process of just making videos, playing the game, sharing what I have to share. And I actually took a pretty significant break, and I feel like it actually hurt my channel significantly, and I haven't really recovered from it to this day. I feel like I'm just now starting to kind of get some more momentum. I had a lot of momentum going into, I want to say, Madden 17, and I just basically stopped making videos. And essentially, I think I had 10,000 subscribers heading into that Madden, and I stopped making videos for 3 years pretty much. I've made a couple here and there, but really wasn't very consistent, and I feel like it's one of my biggest regrets, because had I stayed consistent, I think my channel would be much bigger than it is today. But at the same time, I think there's a very valuable lesson in there about, I was burnt out on the game. I was burnt out on content, and it's because I was making what I would categorize as unsustainable content, and I was playing Madden in an unsustainable way. And ever since I kind of committed to coming back to YouTube in 2020, I've basically posted 3 videos a day, every single day for the last 4 years. And I just find that I'm having a lot more fun, and I just find that so to do that, I've made my content more sustainable, more off the cuff, try to make it more conversational, which I see in a lot of your videos, and I feel like it's just a better long-term strategy, because I'm making decisions today to play Madden for the next 30 years. We just had our first son, and my plan is to give my channel to him, kind of thing. So I'm totally, I think before I took that big break in 2017, I was making content for today. I wanted to have the best YouTube channel today. And now I'm making content, and I'm making videos, and I'm looking at YouTube for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. And I think having that bigger perspective has increased my consistency level tenfold.
Dude, that is an amazing answer. There's so much in there. If we had more time, I would love to unpack every bullet point you just outlined there. That all I can say is you better keep going for a long time, because you are by far my favorite YouTube channel, by far.
Yeah. Well, there's this book, and I tell anyone that wants to get better at Madden, one of the best books that you'll ever. It has nothing to do with Madden, but it has everything to do with Madden. It's called The Talent Code. It's by Daniel Coyle. And the book is really about how skill is developed, how you go from being, how do you get good at something, right? And he talks about some brain science in there, and kind of the science behind it, but in an engaging way. And what it really taught me was, all of everything in YouTube and Madden and all of it together is a skill, and the best people in the world, the best performers in the world, they really fall in love with practice more than the game. And that's kind of where I am getting to, I think, and I'm starting to really see why that is so good, because when you fall in love with practice, you can have you can always have that fun. That fun is always there for you. And I think just like falling in love with the work and the process of becoming good is way, way, way more effective for a long-term strategy than trying to win the game, so to speak. James Clear, actually, he wrote the book Atomic Habits. He talks about that as well. He kind of has this quote that is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits, right? You don't rise to the level of your aspirations, but you're going to fall to the level of the systems that you've put into place in your life to be able to hold you accountable. And he kind of took that approach and applied that concept to sports teams, and he was like, if a team devoted themselves and put all of their energy into like how good of a practice they could perform versus how good they performed on game day, they probably would perform good on game day, even, because they're obsessed with building the habits in practice. So that's kind of a lot of what I feel like I've been working on the last couple of years, is this idea of be consistent, build good habits, and really just fall in love with the repetition of every single day improving.
Oh man, that explanation speaks to me personally. I don't know about the viewers, but it speaks to me personally. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, it's really helped me a lot, because when I first got back into YouTube and when I first got back into playing Madden, I was so obsessed with just different things, like I want to be better than everybody else, or I want to be smarter than everybody else, or I want to be more successful than everybody else. And the problem is when you fail, you tend to think like this. Actually, okay, so a little sidebar, but it totally applies to this. This guy, his name's John Medina. He wrote this book called Brain Rules, and he actually applied it to 3 different segments. He wrote Brain Rules for Aging Well, Brain Rules like just general for adults, and then he wrote one called Brain Rules for Baby. And one of the questions he got as a neuroscientist was, or as a brain scientist, was, how do I get my kid into Harvard? And obviously, I'm really interested in that because we just had our first kid. And so this idea of how do I get my kid into Harvard, there actually was a study done, he cites in the book, and I can't name the study off the top of my head, but I think about it all the time. Essentially, they found that the kids that thrive in what they would call intellectually stressful environments are kids whose parents don't tell them, hey, you're really smart when they get good grades, but they tell them, hey, you worked really hard when they get good grades. That idea of like praising for effort over result is kind of that same idea of, I want to work really hard at getting better at Madden today and let the score kind of take care of itself. Let the rankings take care of itself. And again, it just kind of shows that idea of, falling in love with the process of becoming better. And you can become better at a lot of different things, I think, is kind of the secret, because then every day you're really just asking the question, did I learn something today? Did I get better? Did I improve? You're not asking, am I the number 1 MCS player in the world, right? Because
Absolutely.
Only one person's going to ever attain that.
Absolutely. And they'll only retain it for a short time.
Right.
That brings me to my next couple questions here. What is your favorite part about Madden, specifically Madden 24, and what do you think the worst part of Madden 24 is?
Trying to think. Best part of Madden 24, in my opinion, best part about Madden 24, there's a lot of things that are actually good about this game. But I think in general, one of the best parts of this year's game is there's a lot of variety for the whole like meta this, meta that. There's a lot of variety. People run bunch strong nasty. People run bunch strong offset, bunch offset. We see a lot of audibly and around. I feel like tight. Last year it was tight every play. This year it's bunch strong trips, but it's trip style formations, and that could open up a lot of different options. So I just feel like there's a lot of variety in terms of not just formations, but just route combos in general. I feel like the route combos this year are actually kind of cool, and I think but honestly, I think all of that kind of stems from the fact that we're not playing a man-to-man meta, and the fact that it's more of a zone-based defense. I personally really enjoy years where zone coverage is the meta, because I just think it's way more fun. It's way more like, okay, this play I'm going to cover 3, but next play I'm going to cover 2. Whereas, like, if you look back to Madden 21, it's pretty much either a send 5 cover 0 or a send 3 or send 2 2-man under, right? Whereas this year's game, and you saw that some last year too, but this year's game, it's like I might be mabling one side, I might roll coverage this way, I might play cloud coverage on the other side, I might, send everybody and try to play cover 2 hard flat. There's a lot of variety just in terms of the way that the zones are. I personally really like that about this game. Now, as far as the thing I don't like about this game, and my sim guys are going to probably hate that I say this, I personally think there's 2 really, really broken parts of Madden 24. I feel like personally, it's like 1A, 1B. So my knee-jerk reaction to the question is RPOs are terrible. I don't like RPOs, at least the way they play in this year's game. However, I will say that I think the actual worst part of the game is the under center rollout. And the reason why that's hard or that's bad for the game is because it's actually interesting to me, but to my sim guys, it's like unrealistic to roll out every single play and to throw the ball back across your body and have it be perfect accuracy. It's completely unrealistic. So, and there's no real counter to it. Like, there's some things you can do. Like, you could put 0 yard, you can go to 6-1, put 0 yard purples, spread your linebackers and contain. It's going to do probably the best job of anything that I've seen. But in general, the rollout stuff, to me, shotgun is actually pretty balanced. I'm not saying you should never be able to roll out on a defense. I'm just saying, like, if I want to stop the rollout, I should be able to stop the rollout. I personally would, and this is just, maybe it's just a preference thing, but I personally really preferred Madden 23's system where you really weren't rolling out. Like, if they want to stop the rollout, they stop the rollout, scrambling. But this year, I mean, from very early on, you saw people rolling out a lot. A lot of people said that this game was kind of like a blend of Madden 22 and Madden 23, and I'd probably agree with that. But the reason I don't like rollouts, and this is why I think it's the worst part of the game, is that's where a lot of the glitches come from, these rollout plays. And ironically, there's people that have figured out that if you call an RPO or a wide receiver screenplay, and you hot route the person that's on the screen to any route on the field, if you have the conductor ability, then you can hot route every single route on the field, and it makes your zones blitz. So it forces you into man coverage, and in this year's game, man coverage is not very effective. So I just feel like, and we've seen this for years in Madden, where when you roll out, a lot of times it dumbs out zones. That's my main issue with the rollout, is that there's not really, I call it a brain dead way to play, because it's not about making, like, my favorite part of Madden is like, give me a coverage, change the picture behind it, and I will make the right read. That's where I want to master the skill. I want to master the skill of, like, making the right reads, putting good route combos on the field, and making the right reads consistently. I think that's the most fun thing to do. And when you have a rollout meta, or even an RPO meta to a degree, if it's an RPO read play and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt the player is going to blitz because he's the R defender in the read key, is that really playing Madden, or are you just kind of having a glitch play? So those are kind of my two big issues with the game. But I do really enjoy I think the biggest thing I like about this game is just that it's a zone meta. Baseline press, or any kind of year where like baseline is the meta, I really like that, just because it's more of a chess match of, I'm going to give you the same picture every single time, but I'm going to do different things behind it, and you're going to have to decide, is this open or that open? I like that. That's my personal favorite way to play the game.
Dude, I love those answers.
Thanks.
They're so spot on. So it leads me to another one. It's kind of a funny question. And I know personally, when it comes to defense, I would answer yes to this. But do you think that you're obsessed with figuring out the inner workings of Madden?
Oh, 100%. I mean, even down to, see, it's kind of the hard part about being like a teacher of the game, because a teacher of the game is going to want to learn as much about the game as possible. And oftentimes in Madden, the teacher, I don't think how to word it. In Madden, what tends to occur is, for me to, okay, this is how I would say it. To be the best Madden player in the world, you need to know like 100% of the test, right? To be better than your friends, or to be the best player in your CFM, or to be best player in your college dorm room, you really only need to know about 80% of that 100% test. So I could get you to that top 80% level really, really quickly. But for me to get you to that top 100 players in the world, top 10 players in the world, I feel like that's where those little details really matter. And as someone who loves the game, you want to learn all that stuff. But as someone that teaches the game, most people don't need to know all that stuff. See what I'm saying?
Totally, 100%. So,
but yeah, I'd say I'm completely obsessed with. I mean, I watch. I took Henry. I'm a big Henry. I'm a huge fan of Henry. I think Henry is so much better than people even realize, and a lot of it has to do with his knowledge. And there was an interview. He did a bunch of interviews after he won the $1 million. After he crossed $1 million in MCS earnings, and I'll never forget him saying that if you want to get better at Madden, you need to either A, play as much as possible, or B, watch as much as possible. And what he was trying to say, and he said it in other ways in other interviews, knowledge is king in Madden. And the more you know, and you might think you know it all, but I promise you, as someone that has been doing this for a long time, there is always more to learn. There's always more to learn. And so it really is a knowledge game. And I like this, that guy, Daniel Coyle. He's actually back when the Cleveland baseball team, I think they're called the Guardians now, when they went to the World Series, he was actually a special advisor to their sports team. And what he said, again, I'll never forget this either. He said, we're in the business of learning, or of winning the learning competition. And he was talking about professional baseball, and Henry's talking about professional Madden, and they're basically the same thing. This idea that winning the learning competition, winning the knowledge competition. And you might think you have it all dialed in, but if you think that, it's very likely you don't, because there's always something to be learned. For example, Henry played Dez in the King of the Lounge tournament, and Dez had just come off of 2 big tournament wins. He won like the last 2 comp tournaments of the year in, I believe, Oklahoma. And Dez, it was a key play in their 3rd game, and Dez was going to run the RPO out of bunch strong offset, and Henry was in 6-1. And nobody had ever seen this yet, but Henry knew this just from maybe repetition, lab work, film study, maybe a combination of all those 3, that if he spread his linebackers and he contained and blitzed his linebackers and contained them and pass committed, that there was a chance that pass committed linebacker on a contain could pick off the bubble screen. Well, sure enough, in a key situation. I think it was like a first and goal or second and goal on like the 8-yard line. I just watched this morning. He did that. He did that adjustment. Des had never seen it. So he's looking at that RPO, and he says he's reading that RPO bubble screen, and if there's nobody manned up on the bubble screen, his training tells him, I got to throw the bubble screen every time, right? So he throws the bubble screen, and Henry does an adjustment he's never seen, and he intercepts the ball. And you even see, if you go watch Henry's channel on the King of the Lounge, he says, Des has never seen that adjustment before. And it's this idea that I don't think it's a fluke that Henry wins every year. I think Henry literally consumes as much Madden. He consumes more Madden than anybody else. He knows everything about the game. And I just think people totally don't see that. They don't see that Henry prepares. It's not a fluke that he's winning.
I agree 100-fold. Like I remember that play, and you can see it as it's unfolding, and you're just like, I mean, there's genius for sure, but that's all knowledge based, and just one little bit of knowledge that one player has that the other player doesn't have can be the complete difference. And
yeah,
it's intriguing.
Yeah, and I think it's truly. I've been watching a lot of JJ Redick's actually helped me see this. I've been watching this in other disciplines like basketball, for example, with the playoffs going on. I've been watching a lot of JJ Redick's podcast and kind of just, I don't know, just seeing if the same thing applies over there, and it totally does. He is talking about, he actually started this podcast with LeBron James, and I've been just devouring it, and LeBron was talking about, I don't remember what the question was, but it was basically about, how a rookie can become a really good basketball player. And he said essentially be a student of the game, appreciate and value all the people that have gone before you, and be obsessed with have a high basketball IQ. And he said that the thing that's going to separate teams in the playoffs is the teams that have high basketball IQs. So again, even though it's a sport, it's a physical game, and all that stuff needs to be true, and these are the best athletes in the world, the separator, the differentiator, is that high IQ, right? So I think the same applies to Madden.
Absolutely. So I got just two more questions for you here. So this one's kind of a two-parter. Where do you rate yourself in terms of Madden skill? And then after you answer it, why do you think you underrate yourself?
Underrate myself? Well, I think there's two components to getting, I'm trying to think of word this. I find that there's two primary components to getting really good at Madden. The first one is IQ, and I think it's the most important. But the second one, I would call it repetition or execution. Being able to execute quickly. So you might know that double corner is one of the best route combinations in the game, so I would categorize that as IQ. But being able to throw it at the right time, against the right coverage, call it at the right time, that is typically developed through repetition. And so there are times throughout the year where I would say I'm a top 100 player because I've got the repetition in which I also think is why I think you have to be a little, if you're trying to be one of the best Madden players in the world, I think you have to be a little tricky or a little careful with how much you want to change. Because one of the challenges with learning is the more you learn, the more oftentimes you want to change or experiment or try things out, so as a content creator, as a YouTuber, as a teacher, as someone that has a site where I'm breaking down bunch tight end, bunch offset, several different formations, right? I feel like that hurts me as a Madden player because I don't have the reps that a Henry or a Dez would have. Dez was in Jets the entire Madden 24 season. Henry was in Colts the entire Madden 24 season, with one little exception when he was in Bears for a brief, like 1 month, right? So the top players in the world, what you'll notice is they don't really change a lot. And I think the reason why is because for them to change, and Sybil's talked a little bit about this, when Decroft made the change from going from U-trips to bunch, if you watch back in Madden 22, and you can find some of his games, you'll see him struggle a lot. You'll see him a little late on a read or throw a pick, and that's due. He knows the routes, he knows the combos, he knows the plays, but the ability to execute those plays against top-tier competition on the other side of the ball probably is really a discipline of repetition and execution. So I would say, at best, I'm in the top 100. I think I know as much as probably the top 10, 20 players, but I think I lack repetition, and so when I have the repetition and when I, kind of force, or every year I seem to want to, just for fun, try to get as good as I possibly can get. I tend to find that I can get good really quickly once my repetition is kind of dialed in.
I think that's actually a really fair summation there. I think that seems, and there's a difference to repetition in practice and against the computer, but when you play online, you're dealing with lag, and your inputs aren't always consistent, and being able to have that sort of play-by-play repetition inside of an online game makes a huge difference, and that's where my game suffers, because when there's no lag, I can throw all over the field, but if there's any input, it gets me off my game, and I'll have to play 3, 4, 5 games to kind of get into and some of these pro players, they're playing 50, 60 games a day. Online.
Yeah, I think that's one of the underrated, like John Beast is one of my favorite players to learn from is John Beast, because John is he just loves the game, and he's always figuring stuff out. He's always finding something different, and he literally, he has numbers. He probably plays more Madden than anybody, and he'll talk about sometimes. I've heard him talk about before. I can throw this route at this point, but I can't throw it at this point, and it's because of the repetition that he has. And that's why I think, and some people have talked about this before too, but when you get into the top 25 Madden players in the world, that's where it really becomes almost like a competition of repetition. Now, I say that in the same breath as saying Dez, a top 10 player, was beaten by Henry, the number one Madden player, in my opinion, of all time, because Henry knew a little bit more than Dez. But the reason Henry had that knowledge is probably as a result of the repetition. So it's kind of interesting how they kind of play together. If you hear any good Madden player, if you say any good Madden player, and I'm talking about a top 25 player in the world, if you ask them, how do you get better at Madden? They're going to tell you, watch Madden streams and play Madden a lot. And while that's true, there's a reason why ebook sites have pretty much always been a thing in Madden. And it's because if I can give you within an hour long or so ebook the knowledge that top 25 players in the world have, then all you have to do is do the repetition. Now, I say that saying I think there's actually, and this comes out of the book, The Talent Code, I think there's a way to do repetition better than other ways. There's a difference between repetition from an encoding perspective in your brain and repetition of like an autopilot. If you play Madden and you're on autopilot, the challenge with that is you're really not necessarily getting better. You're just kind of doing what you've always done. But if you play Madden and you're locked in and you're kind of, thinking through what you're doing while you're doing it, but as you're doing it, I think that helps a little bit in terms of improving your repetition. But anyway, those are, it's kind of an interesting discussion to have, I think, of is it knowledge or is it reps? And it's kind of both, but the reps have to be analyzed. Like, watch your film. That's what NFL players do. They self-scout. They watch themselves. Did you know, I mean, we know this, but you don't even, I feel like sometimes I forget this too. NFL teams, they film like their practice sessions. I bet you there's NFL teams that film their film study sessions. Because what they do is they look back at the film and they say, you weren't engaged here, or, right, you just missed things. And I think film study is it's so underrated. You cannot ever properly rate film study. Like, it's so much more important than I ever thought it was. It's 100% very, very possible to watch a batting game and not actually learn anything because you're not actually really analyzing and studying it.
Dude, if I wasn't doing an interview, I could talk all day about what you literally just said. Yeah. I think that's I will film my practice sessions, or if I make a video where I'm just playing against the computer, I will see so many things that I missed, and I learn from that, and I won't miss that again type thing in my head. But, man, dude, you said a mouthful there. That's awesome.
I want to say two more things on that if you're okay with that, because they're kind of
man.
like they've really made a difference. So the other day I was playing Madden and I wanted to, for fun, right? I wanted to, I don't know why, but every now and then I'm like, I want to throw some hitches. I want to go to trips tight end and I want to throw some hitches and curls and ghost routes, and I want to horizontally stretch the defense, and it'll be so fun, right? Well, of course, you jump in an online game, and I've not run trips a lot this year. I've primarily been in bunch strong because it's the best. I think the Jets bunch strong offset. I think it's the best standalone formation in the game, and I really like to stay in one formation. So I jump into trips tight end, and I play somebody that's running the meta. He's running the main stuff, and that's his scheme, and he's labbed it up, and he's prepared it, and yada yada, right? So I'm playing the first two drives, no joke. First two drives of the game, I throw interception, 2 interceptions. Why? Because I'm playing slow. I'm not playing fast. I haven't mastered my reads. I don't have the repetition, and I'm making mistakes. Now, what's interesting is they've actually proven that if you're focused while you're making those mistakes, that's where your brain actually encodes the new information. So making mistakes is helpful, right? Making mistakes is how you learn. You learn from failure, because your brain is starting to learn, right, what's good and what's bad. But I still threw the picks, and I still lost the game. And then I watched the film back. And as I watch the film back, I go, oh, man, I had so many things open, so many routes were open throughout this game. It wasn't my scheme didn't work. It was I didn't make the right read. And I think that's true of a lot of people. And so it kind of comes back to this thing I heard. My favorite coach, favorite football coach is Mike Leach. It's why I've done some ebooks on the air raid, because I love the air raid offense. And Mike Leach said, he was talking to a coach's clinic, And he said, I think the most important thing that we do as a team is practice. And the thing that I'm most interested to learn from other programs is how they practice, how they organize their week, right? It's that idea of falling in love with the practice and continuing to improve with the repetition.
Cody, your answers. This is why I've wanted to interview you all year, and finally got the guts up to ask you, because I love picking your brain, man. It's amazing.
Man, I love talking. This is like, I could talk for hours on this stuff.
Oh, dude, I could too, man. This is awesome. And before I got one more question for you, but before we finish, I want to thank you so much for doing this. It's been a dream of mine to be able to interview you for a long time, and just to get it out there and have people be able to hear it. I don't know. It's just amazing. So anyway, what is the number one suggestion that you would have for a newer Madden player who's looking to get better at the game?
Okay. I'm going to answer that question with a story. So it's actually something really recent for me. So I just became a new dad, and what I have found, I have a lot of friends that are parents. Being a parent is a pretty common thing. What we have found as new parents is, number one, we tried to prepare and we were not prepared. Number two, we found out that a lot of our friends, because they were so far into parenthood, so far removed from being a beginner, they didn't really know how to help us. The things that they told us wasn't really applicable. Okay? So what I did is I did what anyone do. I started researching. I started looking around for help. I started trying to figure things out, and I ended up buying a book that is called Crib Sheet, and the premise of the book is to help newborn parents. And what I found is reading this, as I was reading this book, and also bought an online course as well, as I was kind of consuming this information, these manuals, these guides to help me become a better parent, I found that the majority of information I kind of knew, or I kind of knew of the information, or I kind of heard the information, but I didn't have like an actual packaged plan for how to implement the information, which is what these resources provided us. It helped kind of walk us through, right, how to be parents. I find that is really why ebooks are helpful. And so, my ebooks are, I have free ones on my YouTube channel. Like, you can find them. I would just pick anything, pick any ebook that you like. I would always start with, because no matter what, you have to. There's this principle in the talent code that talks about learning. It's this idea that you have to stare at someone who's gone before you. You have to look up to someone. They actually found that the best performing athletes, they always have like idols. Wayne Gretzky talks about, you can look this up, but he actually had a hockey idol. Like, the best performers were always staring ahead at people that had gone before them. That's the reason why I would really advise people. I don't know if watching streamers is truly the best way for beginners. And the reason why is because if you don't really know what you're watching, it's hard to look for what they're doing. So what I would suggest to people that are like just starting out, I would try to find an ebook. And not all ebooks are created equal, and I understand that, but almost every ebook works. Like, I was trying to tell people, my Jets offensive ebook and my Colts offensive ebook, they both work, right? You just have to kind of commit to learning them. The same thing with my Ballard defensive ebook and my 3-3 Cub defensive ebook. They both worked. You just have to pick one and kind of commit to learning it. And so I would do that. That's what I would suggest to people, is to get you've got to have some kind of resource that is going to get you to a certain level. Then once you have kind of the foundation built, then go study as much film as you possibly can. And try to, go as slow as possible. The military saying, as slow as smooth, smooth as fast. So kind of like using film study to slow you down and ask, why did Henry do this? What could he, why did he do that? Why didn't he do this, right? And then also, I think, studying yourself. So if I was to give you kind of a progression, for beginners, I would always start with ebooks because I think it's the easiest way to get good quick. And then I would go to film study of professional Madden players, and then I would go to film study of yourself. That'd be kind of my recommendations as someone that has, played this game for a long time and had periods where I was really good and periods where I wasn't so good. And typically the periods where I'm not so good is due to a lack of repetition or kind of getting off the script, kind of getting just doing random things as opposed to having a plan, a system, an intentional. I got to talk about power, counter, constraint, the idea that understanding that I'm going to give you a play that is so powerful they're going to have to do something to stop it. When they do that thing to stop your power play, your counter play becomes open. And if they, call just the absolute perfect defense, and they stop your power and your counterplay because they have a good user, because they have a good blitz, then the constraint theory plays are designed to take advantage of over pursuing defenses. So to me, that is that's kind of some of the recommendations that I would make. And you'll find, don't give people more credit than they deserve. And what I mean by that is, if you watch, you see this very clearly if you watch yourself play, because when you watch yourself play and you slow it down, you see, oh, this was open. Oh, he was calling this coverage, but that left this open. So kind of having that knowledge on the front end and going into the game and saying, I know that he can only do a couple of things to take this away. That's super helpful, because then you don't have to call 500 different plays that do 500 different things. You only really need to learn probably about 10 to 15 plays that do 7 to 10 different things.
I love it. I love your answer. I agree 100%. The only thing I would add is make sure you have fun when you're doing it. Make sure you enjoy it.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, Cody, would you mind giving a plug to all your different sites again?
Yeah, the biggest thing, just the YouTube channels, kind of the foundation. You see everything there, and then I have a school website. I switched to school because Madden Daily's leader, Lights Out, he said that he was thinking of doing that. I thought it looked really good. I thought that it was more user friendly. So school.com/CodyBallard, and I'll shoot you a link to that. But yeah, come over to the channel, guys, and comment with any questions. Or I think I put my email in my description, so I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. My email is just my name, Cody Ballard 0531, which is my birthday, May 31st. So CodyBallard 0531 at gmail.com. And I'm pretty responsive to emails. So if you guys have any questions or want any help with anything, just let me know.
Dude, thanks so much for doing this. This really has been an honor, and I've learned a lot just listening to you, man.
Yeah, no problem. This was a blast. I was really looking forward to doing this.
All right, Cody. Well, thank you so much, and I will post this video, and hopefully everybody else can learn as much as I have. So thanks again, brother.
Yeah, sounds good.
So guys, that was Cody Ballard. I think it's really important to be able to sort of pick the brain of people who are really good at something. And somebody like Cody has put in a lot of time and a lot of effort and has a lot of talent. And it's really interesting to just be able to peek inside of the mind and see how somebody like that thinks. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Be on the lookout for the next video. And as always, have a great day.